After living abroad for some time now, I've noticed that many children of immigrants do not speak or even understand their ethnic language. In this video, without judgment, let's talk about why immigrant parents do not teach their children their ethnic language. Hi, I'm an immigrant from Uganda. I live in Canada. These are observations I've seen, observations I've experienced myself, some of them. So this is a no judgment area. I'm only here to start a conversation that we don't usually have. And without further ado, let's get started. Number one, immigrant parents do not teach their children their ethnic language because they are in survival mode. Many immigrant parents arrive thinking survival mode is only going to take maybe a year or two, but for some families, the reality is that it takes longer than that. From looking for jobs, doing multiple jobs, or even doing the jobs they don't like at the beginning, to like having children, school pickups, school drop-offs, long commutes, financial stress. Intentional language teaching becomes like a luxury. Like someone is tired from work and then they come back home, they have to again make dinner, they have to prepare the children for the next day to be able to repeat the same process again. So intentional language teaching becomes like a luxury, and for most of them it's just not practical for them to do it. They are in survival mode. In that case, intentionally speaking their language to their children is not one of their main priorities, so it ends up dying. Reason number two, the pressure to fit in, the pressure to blend in. You know, when people come from other countries to come to a new country, most immigrant parents have this thinking of, if my children speak like locals, if my children easily get the language, if my children don't have accents, they will easily be accepted. They believe that their children will become more successful in that way. Some parents believe that their children speaking only the dominant language at home will help their children become successful faster. So slowly the ethnic language disappears, and before you know it, none of the children can even understand a single word in the language, even when the parents speak it at home. For example, your child starts school, maybe let's say you're in an English speaking country, and the child's English is not like a native speaker, and then they tell you about it, and the child and the parent starts thinking it's maybe because I'm speaking a different language at home, and in trying to blend in trying to maybe do what the teacher has told the parent to do, they completely stop speaking their ethnic language. So the pressure to fit in is one other reason that makes parents not teach their children their ethnic language. Reason number three, fear of confusing the child. Some parents think that when they speak 2 or 3 languages to their children, the children will get confused. But that is a myth, because you know that half of the people in the world speak more than one language. And if you're watching this video, you probably speak more than one language. So are you confused? You're not. So there's that myth that is there, especially here in North America. Like people think when you speak more than one language, like when you introduce more than one language to a child, it's like going to confuse them. When they hear a toddler mixing like 2 words of a different language in a sentence, instead of taking it as a natural phase of language development, some parents think it's confusion, but actually it's not. So some don't teach them because they think the children are going to be confused. Reason number 4, parents think that their language is not useful. Some immigrant parents believe that their language is not useful to their child. A parent will say, why teach them a language that is not going to help them anywhere, especially economically, if it's not going to help them get a job, if it's not going to help them like advance in life in terms of career development, why should they waste their time on the language? Over time, practicality replaces culture passed down. So it's practically really not very useful. The language is not very useful per se in terms of like career development. It won't help you get a job. It won't help you get a promotion. So some languages, especially the less spoken languages like mine, a parent would be like, it's really not useful for my child to learn this language. So they end up leaving it out altogether. Reason number 5, shame or past trauma linked to the language. This is a hard one, but it's true. Some parents were shamed for speaking the language. Some parents have trauma from their own language. For example, some were like so harassed and embarrassed when they spoke their language. Maybe when they were younger, some were punished for speaking their language, especially in schools. Those experiences cannot disappear when they move or when they migrate to another country. For example, a parent who was teased because of their accent, they will not want their child to speak the language which they will have an accent in, and then they will be teased. So they have that feeling of, I was teased and therefore my child will be teased, because guess what? My child is not going to be fluent in this language after all, because they don't live in the country where the language is actively spoken. So that makes them reluctant to teach the language to their children, and in the long run, the language is dead. So the parents slowly start to avoid speaking the language, either in public or even in private, to avoid being embarrassed, and they don't want the embarrassment for their children, so they end up leaving it out altogether. Reason number 6, some parents are still struggling with identity. It is very hard to teach something you're not comfortable with. I'll give you an example. When you're unsure about your identity, passing it down to your child becomes complicated. Some parents, consciously or unconsciously, distance themselves from their culture. They don't want to dress their culture attire. They don't even want their kids to eat their food. They cannot even bother to pack their ethnic food for their children to go to school. They change their accent, so they're really not into it. They slowly do away with the language, and they don't really feel good identifying with their language and with their culture, so they drop it and eventually it dies out. Reason number 7, lack of community support. Back home, language is everywhere. But when you're here, when you're abroad, it's somehow like you're the only source of the language in most cases. Some people have relatives like grandparents, like cousins, but for most immigrants, at least at the beginning, it's always only them. There's no neighbors, there's no playmates, there's no cousins, there's no friends, there's no grandparents. And that lack of support sometimes is so draining to the parents. They're already busy, they're already navigating a new country. It becomes hard for them to navigate all that. And in the long run, you find that your language is dying. Without community support, language learning becomes very hard. So that is why some parents do not teach their children the ethnic language, because they lack support. Reason number 8, they can learn it later mindset. Some parents have that mindset of the children will learn the ethnic language later, after they have learned the dominant language in the country they live in. For example, if you're in an English-speaking country, you say they will learn your language later when they learn English. Maybe you're in a Spanish-speaking country, you're like, they will learn your language later after learning Spanish. But that later actually never comes. As children grow, the more children grow, the less likely they are going to learn the language. Even research shows that language learning is best at childhood or during childhood, not later. Language needs repetition, language needs exposure, language needs time, and all that time is usually available in childhood. Once the child is out of their childhood, it's really hard for them to have time for something like that, because they're already busy now with their life. So it becomes hard for them to now come back to the basics of, you need to learn this language. And they are already established in the majority language or the dominant language. So it's really hard for them to do the later. The belief that they will learn the language later is comforting, but it's not realistic. What is realistic is that language learning is more possible in the early childhood years. Reason number 9, immigrant parents underestimate their power. One thing I've noticed is that with immigrant parents, they think they cannot do stuff. They think they cannot do hard things. They think like there's a way they feel under-equipped, but it is not true. I read a book that says hard is not the same thing as bad. I always knew I could do hard things. So when I came to this country and everyone was telling me that is not possible, it's not going to be possible to teach your children your ethnic language. It's hard. Very few people have done it. Very few people have tried and failed. I knew people had tried and failed, but I know hard is not the same thing as bad. Hard doesn't mean impossible. I knew it was going to be hard, but I knew there was a possibility that it is going to be possible. And I chose to believe that it was going to be possible. Hard is not the same thing as bad. It is hard, but it's possible. So immigrant parents, Believe in yourself that you can do it. Believe in yourself that you can teach your children your culture, regardless of how busy you are. You can do it. As long as you know you can speak to your child, you speak to your child every day. You greet your child every day. Whatever you do with your child every day can be done in your ethnic language. Even when you're talking in normal conversations, you're more equipped than you actually think. Reason number 10. Some children actively resist it. I haven't experienced this myself, but some parents say that their children resist speaking the language, especially as they grow older. They are more comfortable speaking the socially accepted language, like the one that they feel cool in, the ones their friends speak, the one, that is common out in the community. So some parents say they speak to their children in their ethnic language and the children reply back in the dominant language. And after constant resistance, after some time, parents become demoralized and they give in and they start speaking to their children in the majority language, and slowly the language dies. And by the way, guys, if you don't know, I'm working on an ebook for immigrant families on how to teach your children your ethnic language. I will walk you through how to teach your children your ethnic language even when your children are older. I'll give you simple daily strategies that actually work. I'll give you practical tips on how to teach your children your ethnic language. I'll show you how to stay consistent without burning out, how to deal with outside pressure and resistance. If that sounds like something you would like, please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss the launch. Also, you can join my free community. I'll leave the link to the community in the description. If those reasons resonate with it means you're adjusting to your new life, you're healing, and you're doing your best. It's about starting a conversation so that we keep it going. If you're an immigrant watching this, it's never too late to start, and some language is better than having no language at all. So you can do it. Otherwise, thank you for watching my video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Also, tell me in the comments, are you trying to teach your children your ethnic language? Which language are you trying to teach your child? How is it going? Do you have any challenges? I would like to know in the comments. Please let me know and I'll be there replying to all of them. Thank you guys for watching this video, and see you in my next one. Bye.